All right, here we are. Let's go, you guys. This is the hype seat where real ones drop real strategy in real time. No scripts, no filters, no BS. We go live across TikTok, YouTube, LinkedIn, and Instagram. So, what you are hearing right now, it's raw, it's real, and it's happening as we speak. No perfect edits, no motivational theater, just unfiltered conversations with people who actually walk the walk. This show is for builders, for leaders, people who want to create momentum in a world full of noise, pressure, and distractions. And if you're rebuilding from scratch or leading while carrying real life behind the scenes, I see you. That is why this show exists. And that is why I created the Hype Collective in the first place. So each week I bring on voices that matter, not because they're famous, but because they're doing something worth talking about. If they're innovating, disrupting, or leading with intention, we are putting them in the hype seat. And today we have got Jared Davis, real estate agent, team leader, investor, entrepreneur out of Richmond, Virginia. Jared isn't just building wealth, he's multiplying it with over 240 doors and an active fix and flip company, real estate team. He is living proof that real estate can be a vehicle both for freedom and for cash flow if you stop chasing shiny objects and start thinking like a builder. So, Jared, welcome to the show. So glad you're here.
Thank you for having me. Really appreciate it. Love the opportunity.
Absolutely. So I want to start here because this is the part of your story I think that most agents romanticize without really understanding the weight behind it. When we see your door count and the flips and the success that you have created so far and the machine that you've built, people love to assume that it was just this straight shot, right? But empire building does not happen by accident. So take me back to the moment where you kind of realize, like, I'm not just a high performing agent anymore. I'm actually building something bigger than that. Like, when did that click? Was it a deal or a conversation? Like, what made you shift out of just closing sales and like into actually wealth building?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I got my license about 10 years ago now, and I just started out as a real estate agent, like a lot of people probably that are going to listen to this. I actually worked a second job for 2 years while I tried to be a real estate agent just to try to get off the ground. Year three, I went full time. I was the number one agent out of Remax on year three when I went full time out of that office. And then by about year five, I had already gotten to a point where I was like, man, I'm burning out trying to just sell houses. So I thought starting the team was the way. Obviously, if you're a high producing agent and you're listening to this, you probably run through the struggles of starting a team and figuring out the process and all of that stuff. But that was kind of where I started venturing. So it took me about 5 years before I started saying, okay, now I have enough cash flow and savings and all of these things where I can start to do more than just sell real estate. So it started with a little bit of a team growth. Then it went into my first fix and flip. After my second fix and flip, it turned into my first rental. And then it's just been a 5-year growth from there. So you're right. Even when people are looking at successful agents, they typically don't see all the stuff behind the scenes of the 100 to 200 to 300 calls you made a day to build the business, and all of the open houses you sat in every weekend, and all of the people that no-showed you and everything else to become a good agent. It's the same thing on the investment side. It's a slow burn.
Absolutely. Yep. And that part, like that decision to not settle for what's already working, because obviously you were doing things that were working and you were selling real estate, having cash flow. But making that decision to transition into something else, like that can be scary as hell. Like, to take something that's working and want to go for more. I don't think enough people admit that, especially when you're already doing well by most people's standards. So let's build on that. So at that stage, like before you created the systems and before you scaled, what were you wrestling with the most with that shift of, okay, I'm just selling houses to creating more? Was it like identity or risk or burnout? Like what did that fear actually sound like in your head, or decision to make that transition?
Man, I feel like I need a notepad to write down all the things. So burnout, I'll say burnout happened on the sales side because I was getting to a point where I was selling like over 100 houses a year just as a solo agent. And I was like, this ain't it. This is not the ticket. This is just too much. I'm working every night. After you show homes every night, you're going home and you're writing contracts at 11 o'clock at night to try to get them in before deadlines. And then all your weekends are gone. So the burnout was already there. It was more like, man, I need to shift to not burn out. Right. The
Yep.
risk, just to preface a little bit, I pretty much lost everything like 3 times before I got into real estate because I wasn't making money, but I bought my first house in like 2009 or 2010 when I was 18.
Okay.
So up until that point, no one had ever lost money on a real estate purchase, essentially, right? Until 2008. And so I bought my first house and was like, this is going to be great. I'm going to turn it over, flip it while I live here, move out, make 50 or 60 grand in a few years. It's going to be great. I actually lived there 5 years and then I had to write a check to leave. So I lost money on my first house.
Okay.
I started buying stocks at 17 and I got into penny stocks. I like quintupled my money and then it was a penny stock. So it pumped and dumped. And then I lost all of the money that I was investing with. And then I was like, well, maybe I'll just give it to a financial advisor to start a savings and do good. And so I talked to a family friend that gave me their financial advisor. And the financial advisor ended up running a Ponzi scheme and he stole my entire savings. So literally, I had lost money from financial advisors, the stock market, and real estate from like 17 to like 21 or 22. So
Jeez.
by the time I got a real estate license, I was like, who cares? You know what I mean? Like I can lose this a million times and I'll rebuild. And back then I didn't have anything. So it was fine. It wasn't really a
Sure.
big deal. By the
Yeah.
time I got to like, I'm going to buy my first flip, I think I had to put, I forget at this point, probably around 80 grand into it in cash, something like that. And
Mhm.
I don't know. It was just kind of like, this is what it is. This is what I want to do. I want to move to the next level, right? So the risk didn't scare me that much. Then when we went to buy the first rental, I bought it with a partner and it was an 8-unit apartment building. So most people are always really surprised because they're like, man, I wouldn't have expected you to go for a apartment building for your first, right? Most people buy a single family home, but this opportunity just kind of came along. My partner, who I'm still partners with to this day on some of our projects, we're buying a building right this second. He had found it. It was on MLS listed as a quadplex. It was actually an eightplex.
Hmm.
It listed on July 4th. So obviously the agent was just kind of doing all kinds of things wrong. And he put an offer in day one. We got it accepted. And he called me and said, hey, do you want to be a part of this? It wasn't even in our area. It was actually about 2 hours from where I live. And I don't know. I think I was just like, yeah, let's do it. I want to get into rentals. I think he had like a duplex for a while. So like, all right, you've had a rental for a bit. Let's do this thing. And
Mhm.
so I think I've always just been willing to say, if this is what I want to do, I don't mind taking the risk to do it. I still want to be educated about it. I still want to be smart about it. But the reality is most people just don't ever do anything because they're so afraid to act. And to me, even now, to this day, I'm like, if I lose it all, it's kind of fine. You know what I mean? I can go back to zero today and I'll be a millionaire in 12 months. Like it's okay. That doesn't scare me at this point.
Well, what a gift, just point because you said a lot of really like life lessons in there, but what a gift to have experienced quote unquote what today's standards are as failure three times over by the time you were 22, and like I don't think a lot of people have that real life like massive money um uh failures in life by that age. So what a gift, because now you have that that confidence, like, hey, if I lose it, I know how to rebuild it, because
Yeah.
you had a specific mindset and direction in what you wanted to do. So I think that there's a lot in there. So I want to talk a little bit about hustle mindset. There's kind of two camps about it, but a hustle mindset in general, I think gets glorified in this industry, right? Like do harder, just work more, next level type stuff. Like it's endless. It's out there everywhere. But at some point you had to go from I sell houses to I build assets, right? And that's part of the burnout that you were talking about.
Mhm.
So, what did that mindset shift actually like in real time? What did it feel like? Was it obvious for you? Were you like, do you feel like you were built that way? Or were there moments that you had to like kill off maybe some agent identity to step into the investor, leader, builder mindset?
I'm still killing agent identity. I mean, I think we're streaming this to our real estate teams page right now and our Living in Richmond YouTube channel right this second, right? So I still actively sell. I think as of today, the team's done a little around 50 million so far. We're just at the halfway point for the year, so we're tracking about 100 million. But I'm probably 12 million of that right now, and I think I actively have probably 10 to 15 million in pipeline. So like I'm still probably going to sell $30 million this year, like
Hmm.
personally, but that is me definitely trying not to sell. So that is me like not waking up and calling leads or doing whatever. So the pivot isn't about not hustling anymore, right? Because I don't think anybody hustles as hard as I do still, whether they're on the team or whether they're whatever. Like I'm in it every day.
Hmm.
Pivot is what's the thing that I have to spend the most time at?
Mm.
Because what you start to realize is, okay, maybe you're good at something, but should you be doing it, right? And I say that I think most people kind of grasp that principle, but the reality is like it could be something that you're good at and it makes you a lot of money, right? It could be actually the highest grossing thing in your business, right? And you may still have to say, I don't know if this is worth me doing in the long run, right? To get where I want to go. So, yes, I still sell, it's typically people that are reaching out to me directly. We've dealt with them before. Commercial properties that maybe my team can't handle, land acquisitions, developments, things like that, that are a higher level, higher price point, things like that. The flip side of that is it has really taken me building systems to get out of the things that I shouldn't be doing, like maybe popping a lock, putting a sign out, measuring something, writing a contract, inputting something, right? And then it's how do I systemize every business, right? How do we do
Yep.
100 million this year, but 200 million in a few years, right? How do we go from 40 million in our mortgage company to 100 million in our mortgage company over the next 5 years? How do we, go from the 240 doors now? We're about to be at 301 with this next closing this month. How do we go from that to 500 doors, then 1,000 doors? With EXP, 350 agents, how do we go to 1,000 agents? And a lot of that is systemizing and doing everything that is the most important and systemizing all the stuff that is not. So I don't think I'm less hustly now. I
Yeah.
think I'm actually busier than ever. It's just at higher level things.
Sure, sure. Okay, so there's a lot there. I want to break down a couple pieces of what you're talking about. We've got hustle, and just like doing the work and being disciplined, and then there's also systems, and both of those are important. So really quickly, just to so that our audience and people that are listening, what is your like personal life makeup? Married, kids, like what do you got? Because we all have a personal life in addition to work, and some of us it can't only focus on real estate. So like, do you have a family, just so people can get some context for where you're
I have a wife, no kids. So
at?
So I never take that for granted because I understand that once there's kids in play, there's getting them on the bus, there's picking them up off the bus, there's weekend extracurricular, there's all that stuff that I don't have to worry about, right? So
Yeah.
that is just that alone. I give so much respect to people that are raising kids and doing any kind of business because I just don't have that.
Yes.
So for me, I just have to make sure that I'm giving my wife the time she needs. We travel a lot just to try to get away together. I mean, we'll probably be gone close to 2 months this year, where we just try to get out of country or out of state or somewhere. Even if it's work stuff, I'll still take her with me so that we can spend a few days after. And then it's just making sure we have our date night still. Saturday we just hopped around breweries and restaurants and just hung out together, right? This morning we took a 3-mile run together. So I got up at 7. I don't think she wanted to get up. I was like, come on, let's do this thing. So we ran 3 miles. We sat in the sauna together. We got in the pool together. And then I was on my, 8 a.m. huddle with my team at 8, right? So I was still able to spend the hour with her, go to work, all that stuff.
Very cool. So yeah, and you have to be systematic about that stuff too, in your personal life, and it all connects. So speaking of systems, so you're obviously at a high level, and we got a multitude of people watching. So if you were to kind of break it down and reverse a little bit, obviously you got systems at high levels now, but if you were to tell someone, like, what do you think is the starting point system that matters the most, or that allowed you to then create even more complex systems on top of that and get to the next level?
Yeah, I don't want to like run on for days. So let's go business specific. We're
Yes.
talking to agents first, like as a real estate agent.
Hmm.
First system's a transaction coordinator, like bar none every
Yep.
time.
I
So
agree.
many people try to avoid it. And it's like, why are you ordering termite inspections and HOAs and all of these things, right?
Mhm.
The second thing I would almost say is if you're an agent that feels like you're getting to a burnout point, maybe you're selling 25, 35, 55, 60 deals a year, and you've got that TC in place that's kind of handling the back end, and you're asking yourself, do I want to start a team now? Right? Again, we're talking about systems. You really have to figure out, do you want to manage people? Because being a team lead and running a team is totally different than running a solo business. So if
Yep.
you just like to run a solo business, then the next thing I would recommend people hire is just a full-time assistant that's licensed. That was like the biggest game changer in my life across all businesses. Jared Davis Realty pays her But I mean, she's checking on flips, she's writing contracts, she's putting signs out, she's doing showing, she's going to walkthrough, she's getting gifts, right? So it's allowing me to sell without really selling. I can just handle an offer, handle this. Now, once you want to get into team approach, right? Then it's a totally different thing. And that's probably even too long even a conversation here, right? Because then it's systems for everything. It's systems for onboarding. It's systems for training. It's accountability. It's leads. It's how do the leads flow? It's what softwares are you using? What AI are you using? How are you tracking it? You can't measure what you can't, or you can't manage what you can't measure, right? So it's like all of that stuff comes in on a much larger scale. So that's that. And then I'd say as you get to the investment side, the systems are more of, do I have reliable trades and people that when I leave them alone, the stuff gets done, right? Because you're not going to be swinging a hammer. You're not going to be doing all of those things. So, can I buy a house, walk it once, and come back in 4 weeks and it's fully flipped and ready for market? That's ultimately where I wanted to be and where we are.
Absolutely. And I think you pointed out a couple really key things of like, yes, systems, but also you could have the perfect system. And if you don't have the right people in it,
Mm-hmm.
matter how good your system is, just like you could have the perfect script, but if you don't have the right tone and you're not conversational, you don't actually care, then the script's not going to land. I think it's those two things are super important, or at least what I'm hearing from you and what I've experienced in improving both. And I think that the point is, if someone's listening and they're feeling overwhelmed, because some people are either just getting started on their journey, or maybe they are in the hustle mode and selling lots of houses and like, I need a break. I just think it's interesting talking, to people like you that are at these levels, but then breaking it down. Okay, what is the most important thing? Because there's a lot here, and you're a wealth of information. So anyone listening, I think it's important to figure out, okay, where am I at in that journey that you've experienced, and like, okay, what stage am I at? All this other stuff, the investment side, and starting to add. But it's important, if you don't have the one business that's making you the money, that's
Cool.
being on a high level, and you don't going to the next, right? Because we average million
Yes.
is 7 streams of income, but it's like, but they didn't start all of those all at once. They did one really, really well, and then they leveraged that into the next, and the next succeeded much faster, and then the third succeeded even faster than that. And I think that's what people miss.
If there's one point that everybody should take from the podcast, it's just that point that you made. Forget my point. That's the point, right? And it's what I try to tell people every day, because nothing's more annoying than trying to teach somebody to sell real estate. And they're like, yeah, but I want to be an investor, and I want to be a flipper, and I want to be a this, and I want to be a that. And you're like, great. What is the definition of investing, right? It's putting money in and then getting money back. I'm like, you have no money.
Yeah.
So we need like the thing that's going to cash flow you, right? But so
Right.
many people try to have 10 irons in the fire, or they get an iron in, as it starts to get hot, they leave it and go get another, and then they're just holding like 10 cold irons. And to me, like, that is like one of the biggest skills you can ever have, is getting an iron so hot that it is just crushing for you. And then when you pick up another iron, that iron never gets any cooler, right? If anything, you've made it that it's going to keep getting even hotter without you, and then you add the next one, right? But so many people want to build all this stuff, and then they just have a bunch of mediocre businesses. That's why, like, I'm very open about numbers. I'm open about P&Ls. I will show someone yesterday was like, why are you you're not like afraid to show me what you made here? And I'm like, I don't really care, because I'm not selling some false dream like so many other people online. Like, I will show you where my businesses make money, where they need to get better, how you can do the same thing. And if that works, great. And if you want that, good. If you don't, that's fine.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. So let's break it down even simpler. What's one mistake that you see agents make when they try to systematize? So just keeping it on the system side, because that's usually someone's first step. And for me, that was, luckily, I was with teams when I first got started, and I realized the point that you made, that it's not hiring another agent. Let's say you have too many leads and you're like, oh, I need another agent to service those leads. It's actually not that, in my opinion, and obviously yours, that it's the TC, it's the admin. That's the first hire. Then do all that, because that TC or that admin can free up your time to be able to close more, and probably handle that excess of leads that you have before you then bring on another agent. So when agents are, let's say someone is in their first stage of like, okay, I know I need to systematize, and there's system for everything, like you talked about. But what's a common mistake you see agents make when they try to really get serious about systematizing?
Yeah. a lot of people buy stuff and then never actually figure out how to use it or use it. They like buy the CRM and they're like, I got leads now, and the leads flow in, and then they got nothing on top of that. They're not putting their follow-up tasks in. They're not actually calling through the CRMs. They're like, they like have to do everything. Everybody's like, let's do this thing. I'm going to get this software. It's going to change my business. And then they don't actually go in and do the thing with that software to make sure they're good. So, I think especially as you start running a team, right, you get all these leads flowing in, and then what happens? Well, you just end up with like 900 leads in a system that have one call on them because you didn't build the system to like give accountability to your agents to make sure they called them, to actually give everybody the opportunity to blow them up and call them, like to reward the people that were willing to work hard versus the ones that get a lead and never do anything with it. Right. So I think that's like one of the biggest pieces probably is just actually building out your systems to fulfillment and not just getting halfway there. I'm trying to think. I can leave it at that.
Yeah, no, I do like what you said. That is the part that I think no one warns you about. People think they need more tools or more tech, but the truth is, if you don't know what to do with your time or you don't follow through, like you're saying, once you've bought that tool or you've implemented that system, the burnout just looks different. So there's a follow through when you add something or you're building something that, okay, what am I, maybe now I have more time, but if that time isn't being replaced with more lead generation activities or more time for family, if that's the goal, maybe it's not making more money, maybe it's just, freeing up your time to do something in your personal life, whatever it is. If you don't know what you're going to do with that, again, it's you just waste money or waste time if you're not specific about that.
Yeah, 100%.
So, and what do you do then? Okay, so how do you decide what to let go of first? And we've touched on a little bit, but a lot of times when agents are going from solo and they do everything on their own, they know they need to leverage if they want to scale. How do they decide what to let go of first? Like when you're coaching and leading your own agents, how do you help them figure out like what to delegate, what to automate or eliminate so that they're not just in a hustle loop that doesn't actually produce anything?
Yeah, I think most people, my answer, I think most people have heard a million times. They just don't ever put it into play because I feel like I tell people all the time this, and I've heard it a million times. It is really just figuring out, one, what are you worth like per hour, right? And you have to do that math. And then you likely have to do the math on what you think you should be worth per hour too, right? Because the reality is maybe you're not worth $1,000 an hour yet, right? Maybe you're worth $100 an hour, right? So at that rate, if you know you're worth $100 an hour, then you're like, anything that costs me less than $100 an hour, I pay somebody else to do. And then maybe you set your standard for like, all right, but what should I be worth, right? And what is that income? If it's $500,000 a year, then that's what, $333 an hour or whatever it is. So you'd be like, okay, anything that's less than that, I'm going to live in that way. Like I'm already there, even if I'm trying to get it. And so to me, like I put a $2,000 an hour limit on everything I do. And really, I read a book the other day and I was like, maybe I should actually bump that up, right? But at $2,000 an hour, that's kind of where I figure it. And then anything under than that, I'm like, okay, it's got to go to somebody else. And then the next step to that is I realized that I could actually do $2,000 plus an hour things for more than 40 to 50 hours a week. So then you start to realize I actually still don't have enough time to do all of the things that I could be making money at a high level. So then honestly, for me, it's like, what do you want? Like, what do you like? You know what I mean? Like I've realized I could go make plenty of money in every business that I'm working on. It's just what do I want to do every day? What's going to drive my vision, my plan? What's going to impact the most people? What's going to help the most people, right? I'm sure many people have seen you start off down here, by the end, what's the highest level? It's really just impact, right? So I'm kind of in that thing where it's like money doesn't really matter. I don't really care about cash flow necessarily. It's just what's the impact now. So if I can train 50 agents on my team to go help 500 to 1,000 families a year, right? That's way more families impacted than if I was selling 100 houses a year, right? But it also impacts 50 agents on my team that I was able to change their lives and give them income and give them some freedom and teach them how to invest. And then you look at EXP and it's like, all right, 350 agents, that's great. I want to help all 350 agents. But if I can get that to 1,000 agents, then now it's like, okay, that's 1,000 agents across what, 26 countries already, or 3 countries, 26 states where we're in right now. So you're like, all right, if we get to 50 states, could we be impacting agents across 50 states, which is also impacting buyers and sellers, right? And then creating apartments, housing, right? 300 apartment doors, right, to 1,000. How many people are we giving housing to? How many people are, you know what I mean? So then you're like, all right, I'm gonna do that, right? And so that's my like nutshell of like when I wake up and think, what do I have to do today? It has to like drive that vision and thought. And if it doesn't, and I start to feel at some point that I'm frustrated that it's not, then I have to figure out a system to get rid of it, essentially.
And I love having these conversations because I see common threads. And one of the common threads I've got, you just organically hit it, which is you have to have a reason, a purpose, a why behind it. That, and if you don't have one, then get one. Like, what is important to you? If money wasn't an option, what would you be doing? Okay, then that's probably a reason. Can you create a plan around getting to that point or whatever that is? Because if you're not clear on that, then yeah, you're not going to feel like doing your calls on a Tuesday morning, like, and then you're not going to do it because you don't have a true purpose doing it. So I'm glad you touched on that.
And to me, like one of the things I tell my team and all the people all the time, they probably hate me for it, but I'm always just like, guys, I don't have to do any of this. I never have to come in again. I could go sit on a beach somewhere and it'd be fine, right? Like I could retire tomorrow, yet I get up and I do more every day than almost anybody I know because my why is so strong on like where I'm going and why I'm doing it and how I'm going to get there. And the goal sets are there that like I'm going to do it. Like I own a mortgage company. I'm in another lender's accountability text right now just because he was like, well, would you just be a part of it? I was like, I'd love to, man, just because if I can help other people be accountable, like, let's go. And I told him, I was like, I told him yesterday, like, you don't even have to give me the awards. Like, I don't want to take other people's stuff, but like, they gave us the accountability stuff, and it was just like one appointment in person a day set, like 10 contacts, a social media post, a 45-minute workout, and like something else. And I was like, dude, I'm gonna be done by like 9:30, 10 a.m. every day with this. You know what I mean? So like, I want people to see like if your why is strong enough, you're gonna get up and you're gonna go. And the more successful you get, the more your why has to get better because the reality is, again, you don't have to. So to actually have that desire, you better have a big plan, why, purpose, whatever. And it's not money. Money's never going to make you happy. Money is not who cares about cash. If that's what you're shooting for, it's not gonna do you much. That's it. Yeah.
It's a tool, really. I mean, money is just a piece of paper. So it's a tool to get what you actually want. You have to know what that is.
Yep.
Okay, so a lot here. So let's shift gears for a second because systems are powerful, all the things that we're talking about, yes, but it's only half of the equation. I want to unlock and unpack leadership, because, and not just like the rah kind, but like the leadership that actually costs you something. And you started to dive in on that, but like, what's the hardest thing, do you think, in leadership that you've had to let go of in order to lead well? Like, what does that look like for you?
So I don't even know if it's let go of, right? It's really making the people that you lead understand what you should be there for and what you shouldn't, right? Like, because people will call me with like I have this curse that I know a lot about everything, or I know a little about everything. Sorry, I don't know like a lot about one thing, but like I know a little bit about like whatever you call me on. You want to know about cost segregation, 1031 exchanges, tax laws, multifamily, land development, commercial, like it doesn't matter. Like when I got into this business 10 years ago, I like all these agents were like, well, I do this. And so can I refer this to you? Right. And I was always like, even if I didn't do it, I was like, yeah, you can refer it to me. And I'm just
Yep.
and so for the last 10 years, I figured out how to do every bit. I don't care if it's a multifamily or a warehouse or land or a data center or a single family home or a shack. I don't really care. So what that has led to is because there are hundreds of people that we coach and train and everything else. And even from like a broker level within the state, like so many people reach out because they're like, hey, I figured you'd know the answer. And so
Mm,
for me, I'm trying to figure out the fact that even though I know the answer, I need you guys to not ask me if someone else knows the answer. So part of that was building out like chats for everything. Like I have open house chats for 100 plus agents in our area, because people used to hit me up as the team leader and say, hey, would any of your people like an open house over here? And I was like, stop asking me. I'm not a secretary. So
Mhm.
now it's in an open house chat and I never touch it. I have an off market chat for people looking for off market deals. I have a general chat for agents. There's 120 of them in there. And it's like, hey, I need a recommendation on a contractor, or I need help with a contract, or I need something on a turn, right? So that kind of alleviated all of that. And then I have a team chat. So everybody's in our team chat, our admin, or my assistant, all of our agents. And then it's like, hey, if you think someone on the team knows this, ask the team chat. I'm also going to get the team chat, which means if nobody answers, I can answer. And then
Mhm.
that question that you didn't know, now everybody knows the answer. And then no one has to call me again, right? So that's like the big thing. It's not letting go, but it does go back to systems of like, okay, what is the thing that I should be doing? And
Yep.
if it's not one of those things, like, and so I'm really big, like, guys, if you're trying to do a multi-million-dollar land deal, like, bring me in, I'm going to handle this thing, right? And if you're brand new, I'm still going to go on your $150,000 listing appointment. I don't care. Like, I'm going to make sure you know how to do it. I'm going to train you. But the biggest thing is just, I think, knowing your place in leadership. Hopefully that answers the question, and just making sure you're not running around just answering every need, because the reality is people will bug you endlessly if you
Yep.
don't. So that's
100%. No, and I can totally relate to that because the people that I coach and train in my membership, it's the same thing. I have a Discord account set up, and there's different channels for different things, and I, continually have to do that. And that is actually, because I asked, like, what do you have to let go of? Some people, you may not struggle with letting go of things. You're like, hey, this is not a job for me. There's someone else that's better at it, or it's not worth my time. But I know a lot of agents struggle with, well, if I don't do it, it's not going to be done as well. It's like, well, you're not going to be able to scale. You're not going to be able to grow. And I say exactly what you just said to my team, like, hey, if it's a question that other people would benefit, which 99% of the time it is, you're not the only one that has this question, put it in there, because there are other people that can answer it, or maybe even like quicker than me or better than me or whatever. And I have no ego around, hey, if someone else can, give a better answer to me, great. That's why we have the community here. So I think it's super important to create those channels in the way that you did. I love that. So, so right now, like with where you're currently at, and I know, staying on the leadership topic,
okay.
because a lot of agents confuse being busy or being like in charge with being a leader, but you're running teams, training agents, flipping houses, investing, and all of that. Like, what's the part of leadership that you think no one really talks about, but everyone needs to hear? I know you've already dropped a ton of nuggets, but like,
No, I
if
have it. I have that one. That one I actually have an answer that I think is most people's problems that claim to be leaders. Everyone wants to be a leader so that they can check out and not be around anymore, right? Like their whole why for the most part is like, I want to be a leader so all my minions can do whatever, and then I never have to come in anymore, and I can sit on a beach and I can go to the lake and I can do this, I can do that, and they just get out. And that goes across every business, right?
yep,
So if you're a team, they step out, right? And the team lead gets out of production, and then the team lead stops managing. He hires a manager, he's gone, right? And then on the flip side, right, he's got trades doing everything. He's got a manager running his flips. So he never sees them. He's not on his P&L. He's not choosing finishings anymore. He's not really seeing quality control, right? Whatever it may be. So across all of these businesses, EXP, right? Oh, I'm going to grow this revenue share line, and then I'm going to step away and I'll never answer my phone again, right?
yeah,
That is the biggest issue with leadership, because they hit a level of success that they think, I don't have to do this anymore.
hmm,
And the whole reason you became a leader is because you had some kind of vision. And the reality is, if the visionary leaves, then there's no more vision. There's
yep,
nothing. So the reality is, if I have a vision to go to 500 deals a year as a team, does my team have that vision? I mean, you hope they do, but they're not integrating the changes. They're not adding the stuff. They're not doing that. You know they want to be a part of the vision, but you hope they have their own vision on what they want in success. How many houses they want to sell? What do they want for their family, right? The
hmm,
same thing with EXP Group. You call me, I'm there. You need an explain, I'm there. You want some coaching, I'll give you all of my software, systems, training, whatever I have, you can have. But so many leaders check out and
hmm,
they go away. And then what happens? They lose their agents, they lose their team, their investments start losing money because they just said, oh, I'm just going to automate this, right? I've
hmm,
watched people try to automate buying apartment buildings, right? I buy multi-million-dollar apartment buildings. I've watched people just automate it and hire somebody for their first one. And I'm like, guy, you don't know how to read a P&L. You don't know a T12. Like, why would you spend $11 million in personal guarantee alone and go raise 2 or 3 million of other people's money that you're probably going to call friends and families on when you don't even understand basic premises of investing, right? I picked your deal apart in 30 seconds because I was in it, right?
Hmm.
Every leader's problem is they think they reach a point where they're done. You're not. You're not a leader anymore. You're retired. And if you want to retire, that's fine. Sell your businesses, get out and go sit on a beach and be a retired person. But if you want to be a leader, you have to be in the trenches every day with your people in some way. I'm doing this today. I have a grid investment training tonight. I have a role play day tomorrow. I taught a commercial class on Monday. That was just this week with training. That's 5, 6 hours of training that I've spent my time on it, $2,000 an hour, right? To
Yep.
just help other agents and people. But I know that that will come back to me because I'm going to lead and I'm going to make sure that I can help other people, right? So
Mhm.
that's every leader's problem.
Yep. That's gold right there. And I hope people listening are taking that to heart because a lot of people listening to this are leaders. Like whether you're a leader in your home, leader in your business, even if you're a solo agent, you are a leader to your clients. And sometimes they're not, they don't realize that yet, or that they don't realize that that is their job and what they're there to do. Whether you're mentoring people, in your DMs or the text messages to your clients, whatever that might be, are you showing up as a leader who is invested and involved, and do you have that type of mindset? So what would you say to the agent who might be sitting on the fence, who knows that like they're mentally and they know that they've got it, but maybe keeps shrinking back because they don't feel ready or not experienced yet? Because a lot of times it's scary to do that. You're putting yourself out there, you're vulnerable. So what would you say to agents right now, because that's, I think, the majority of the people listening, in that realm?
So what would I say to them? Give me that again. What would I say to them if they're nervous about what? Reaching out to take a leadership role, or what ask me the question.
Yeah, agents listening to this, 'cause I'm sure people are inspired by like where you're at, what you've accomplished, and all the things. And so I guess what would you tell somebody that maybe is afraid to like step into that role, or to think of themselves as a leader, just at their stage of selling homes and trying to lead and build a business? Because in order to build a business and have it sustain, you have to have some leadership qualities. So
Yeah,
maybe someone that's afraid to step out or afraid to like take on that role, they know they want more, but they
right.
know their leadership skills, in order to succeed and to maintain that success, they're going to have to show up as that leader that you're talking about. So what would you say to somebody that's maybe afraid to do that, or hesitating, or knowing what to do first?
First, do you really want it? Right? Because it is a totally different pivot. It is, especially if you're an agent, if you're a sales agent and you move to any other role, it's totally different. So is that what you want? Do you want that secondary role? And then two, are you giving people something to follow, right? I mean, that's the whole point. You're taking the lead, which means everyone else is behind you and following you where you're going. So one, do you know where you're going? Right? Because if you don't know, how are you going to tell everybody else? But then are you giving them a good lead to follow, right? And again, that's where I think it's being there to help train them. It's being there to give them expertise. It's being the first person that finds out about the newest things, right? Like I go to 5, 6 conferences a year so that I can figure out what is every other top team using, what AI is in place, what software is in place, how are they running their systems and leads and everything else, so that I can come back excited as the leader to tell all of my teams, right, that are under me, like, hey, guess what I just learned? You guys need to be doing this in your team, right? But if you don't want to take that, you know what I mean? If you're never going to the conferences and you're not never going to the masterminds and you're never offering that, all of your stuff, right? If you want the world, you have to give it away. So the reality is like, are you willing to not only take in all that knowledge you need to be the leader and lead, but then are you willing to give it all away to everybody else for free? Because that's essentially what's going to get you where you want to go.
100%. Zig Ziglar said, if you help enough people get what they want, you'll have everything you ever wanted and more. So
Exactly
100%.
right.
So let's bring it to just the logistics of the real estate market. Where do you think that the real estate industry is headed, and what kind of leadership, just staying on that topic too, do you think we actually need like over the next 5 years?
So, I mean, the market is obvious. I think a storm is brewing in the market for sure. We really hoped that rates were going to come down and they didn't. And they went back up even more. And now they're like 7.5. So affordability is an issue. And I think every seller is living in 2021. Every seller looks at comps and they think this is what I want and this is what I should get. And I think if you were in the market and you haven't been in the market for more than the last 3 to 5 years, like you don't even know what you're doing, right? Like you've never had to talk people through a price drop. You've never seen somebody ask for 20 grand in closing costs. You've never seen, you know what I mean? Maybe you never sold a home warranty, right? Like, I mean, God, I used to sell a home warranty on every single house I did. I was just like, yeah, the HVAC does suck. This does suck. We'll get you a warranty. The seller will pay for it. It's great. Then we went through this period where sellers were like, I'm taking the front door with me, right? You know what I mean? And you better like it, you know? So I think that's the biggest thing that's going to change is that I don't think we're going to crash necessarily, but I do think that prices are going to kind of level out, maybe come down. The market's going to pivot a little bit. I think everybody wanted listings, right, for so long, which they are easier by nature. I think being a good buyer's agent is going to help a lot of people through this because they're going to hopefully start being able to get some concessions and deals. And sellers are unreasonable, right? And they've always been unreasonable, but I think right now they're really unreasonable. So I think a buyer side, as much as people hate them, it may be like the way that you want to push. And then pivoting. I mean, we're probably going to see more foreclosures. I don't think we're going into an 08. This is not a doom and gloom call. But I mean, I've sold more this year than we've ever sold. I've flipped more this year, or last year we did more than ever. Even in the worst inventory transactional market ever, we were still up in every sector. And this year we're up even more. But I take that as a testament to what we are doing. And if I have software to pull every agent's sales and things like that, just so I can track people and reach out and do all that stuff. Most every agent, their curve is like this over the last couple of years, right? Ours is like this. And when you look at other really successful agents, not just us, but when I think of the teams in town and the agents in town, that I'm like, dude, you're killing it, right? Theirs is like this too. And so the reality is the market doesn't matter because people are still going to buy and people are still going to sell. And it's what's your outlook on going to get those people? And are you having enough conversations? Are you working on your skills? Because if you're not selling, it's only one of two things ever. It's either an action problem or it's a skill problem. So no matter what happens with the market, if your skills are good and you take enough action, you'll sell houses. And if you don't, you won't. It's pretty straightforward.
I like that you simplified that. And that's what I coach and train agents. Like if you're not doing the things, it doesn't matter. And there's always a script. Everything's just an objection, right? Like the market or someone's whatever. And it's like, if you don't have the skills to overcome those objections and how to actually help people, you're going to struggle. And then on the flip side, like you're saying, the action stuff, if you're not following up, if you're not having enough conversations, you also won't have the business that you're trying to go after. Love that. Love that. Well, there's so many more things that I could ask you, but I want to go into our rapid fire round, a this or that I do at the end of all my talks. So what it is I'm going to just say this or that, and you just pick one. No wrong answers, like no disclaimers. Just pick your poison, and we'll go from there. So are you ready for it? It's going to be quick.
All right, go for it.
All right, let's do this. Overpay to win the deal or lose it on principle?
Lose it on principle for sure.
Full on cold calls or spending $5,000 a month on ads?
Ads.
Okay. Team of killers you have to manage or solo empire with total control? I know.
Team, 100%.
Okay, so sell your best flip to an investor who will ruin it or keep it and rent it under market?
Man, I technically the first one, which I hate to say, but the second one, I don't want to hold single family rentals. So it's got to be the first.
Cool. Lose a deal to an agent who undercut you or a friend you trained?
Oh, a friend.
Interesting. Okay. Speak at a huge conference and bomb it or crush a podcast no one hears?
I'm gonna vomit. I'm gonna do the vomit thing.
Oh yeah, I love it. Wake up to 0 escrows or 10 toxic clients in contract?
Oh, 0 escrows. Peace of mind. Peace for me now. That's what I want.
There you go. Be famous for a strategy that no longer works or unknown but quietly rich? That's
unknown. I don't want to be famous.
100%. Sell in a city you hate for 7 figures or struggle in the one you love?
Struggle in the one you love.
Cool. Yeah. Last one, never have to generate leads again, but give up content forever?
Wait, hold on. Give me that one more time.
So okay, I wrote it funny. Okay.
Okay, okay.
Never have to generate leads again or give up content forever. Ah,
But like I don't have to create content, but I'm not gonna struggle for leads. I'll do the leads one again. I would prefer to never be on social media again if I could get away from it. So yeah.
yep, there you go. That's a lesson. Sorry for the question, but the
No, no,
lesson
it's good. It's good.
that
I just
it's more important that you're hitting your goals, whether or not you're visible or not.
yeah, I don't want anybody to know me if I'm being honest. And the one about the friend, like I love when I go up against friends. I normally tell them, hey, you're going up against 10 people. If you're gonna hire anybody, you should hire that guy or you should hire me. I'm like,
Mhm.
forget the other 8. That guy's awesome. You should totally go with him. And then typically they're always gonna hire me or the other guy because of that. And so if my friend gets that, great. I love that.
That's cool. That's cool. Okay, so you survived fire round. Great answers.
Love
Uh,
it.
so let's do this because I know we're getting to the top of the hour, and I want to check some comments from people just to see if we have any. We got a lot of great feedback. Cindy says, yeah, systems are so important. Jeremy says this guy is going to be sick of me because he's going to be reaching out to you.
Fine, go for it.
Let me check TikTok here. Yeah, people are loving this. We're getting lots of likes, lots of feedback. So all right, let's land this. So you've done the work, you built the businesses, you've taken lots of hits, and you also have receipts, and you're not afraid to show them. But here's what I always want to know, because success isn't just loud and showy, but it's about leaving a legacy, and legacies can be quiet, and it's in the stuff that people don't see. And that's just all part of it. So I love the conversation that we had here today, and I just appreciate you being on the hype seat and going all in with us. And just this conversation, it's one that so many people needed to hear. There's tons of nuggets that you gave us. It's not just the wins, but it's also like the war that it took to get there. And if you guys are listening to this, wondering if you're doing enough, wondering if the grind, the silence, and the pressure is worth it, Jared, what would you say? Is it worth it?
Oh, it's totally worth it. At the end of the day, you just got to figure out, are you trying to live the life you want to live, right? I mean, you could go take your 9 to 5 and clock back in and do that. But if you do that, you're making somebody else's dream come true. So, you just got to figure out, you want to work for someone else's dream or your own.
Absolutely. So if you guys felt this episode, you guys share it, tag us, DM it to someone, who's in the trenches right now. And if you want to follow Jared Davis, check out the Davis Group, his investing journey, or Make It Agent Academy. All the links, you guys, are going to be in the show notes and episode bios across the platforms. Jared, is there any last thing you want to leave people with, or, for people to find you other than what's in our show notes?
Instagram's great, __ the Davis Group. You can find me on Facebook too, but Instagram's probably the easiest for DMs, messages, things like that. Happy to help anybody that needs it, especially on investing. We didn't really talk too much about the flips and apartments and things like that. So if anybody wants to get into that, if you ever want me to do anything on any of that stuff, happy to deep dive for people on that too. So whatever I can do to help, I'm happy
Perfect.
to.
Well, we will have you back because there's so much more I wanted to get into. I'm like, man, we're already at the top of the hour, but I will have you back. And maybe what we'll do is have you specifically talk about the investment side of things and help people get started with that if they are interested, or agents who want to provide value to investors. Like if they're working with investor clients and they're afraid to help because they're like, I don't know much about that. So you would be a wealth of information about that. So we'll do that on the next one. How about that?
Okay. Sounds great. Thank you.
Awesome, you guys. Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for being here. All right, you guys, we will see you next time. Same time. This was the hype seat. Thanks for being here.
Thanks, Jen.